Okay. Good morning again. Good morning again. Let's see, fine nobles. I have to tell you that when you and I first met by way of email, I could feel such a level of positiveness. And she was so grounded, I thought. And those two words continue to come to mind. I'm Deborah Charity for those who will be listening to the podcast. And yes, my last name is Charity. But it's a delight to meet you, Yvonne.
Likewise.
We live in a world where there's so much negativism, so much depression. And often people talk about millennials or the different generations. And I thought, Yvonne does not pattern after what that typical description is of a millennial. I'm not going to ask your age. And again, I say that one more time.
Secret.
It's okay. It's okay. And again, each time I think about you, the word that first comes to my mind is grounded. Have you always been that way?
I have what some people refer to as an old soul. So I think a lot that played into it was even as a young child, many of the friends that I associated with were much older. And that association gave me a little bit of advanced wisdom and helped me keep things together. But I have my moments. So, just being real.
If you didn't have them, then you'd be somebody bigger than human, and I don't think you are.
Nope, still human.
So, are you hearing an echo now as we record?
I don't. How about you?
Okay. As long as you don't, then we're okay.
Okay.
In preparation for an interview, and even before this interview, I read your entire website.
Oh my.
I have to do my homework. And again, I just saw such positivity by way of email and also by way of what is in your website content. So I want to be quiet and let the founder and CEO of New You Wow talk. Tell me how you came up with the name of your website.
Okay. Well, first I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. It's funny you make that joke about your name, Charity, because it was so clear when our paths crossed initially. I did a little research on you as well and discovered that you give so much of yourself. So it's not just a name. You live up to it, you give it meaning. And so it's an honor to be here. Pretty much as far as the name, it was a matter of getting others to come into the experience that I've had. So my focus as a life coach and a mindset coach is to help driven entrepreneurs crush their fear and anxiety through personalized power coaching so they become unstoppable. And I feel if I hadn't lived it myself, then it would serve no purpose to anyone else. So it's years of experience of facing fear and getting past roadblocks to somehow still be standing. And, to have that opportunity to help others do it, especially women in this day and age, it is an honor. So the name itself was just a reflection of how do you stop being small and make yourself brand new? And to the point that you're not just impressing others, but you blow yourself away. So, yeah.
Wow. It's been said that everybody has a train, and that the ones who are on your train are folks who have been invited. Sometimes they've bought tickets onto your train, and you don't even know that they have become passengers.
True.
And some folks you're glad to get off at the next stop, and others you want to continue on your train. So when we think about your train being your destination, your route, who are some of the folks, you don't have to call names, but who are some of the personalities who've been on your train?
Well, first I just have to give a credence to my husband. He's the reason that I shine. Scripture says, when you marry someone that's a good fit, you become one flesh. So I feel as if the very identity and my element, my essence is tied in and intertwined with him. And he's such a wonderful guy. I know that there's a lot of people going through the chaos of what marriage can be. And again, even there, I'm speaking from experience because 20 years ago, I had a not so pleasant one. But knowing what a good one is, definitely the cheerleader in your corner, the person that sees you at your worst and still thinks you're beautiful, and the person that inspires you to do better so both of you lift, having that person on my train has been phenomenal. And then there's the matter of mentors. I know I've shared with you, I consider myself fortunate to have two moms because there's my mother-in-law and my birth mom. And because I'm part of an organization as one of Jehovah's Witnesses that is full of tremendous personalities, it's as if I have moms and sisters, fathers and brothers from all over the world that play a huge dynamic in helping me be a better person. So yeah, it's really tough to quantify just one type. And it's funny that you use this expression because when I lived in New York, it was all about riding the subway train. And I was one of those people who would always have an experience. Strangers would come up to me to the point where others looking would be like, how is she always talking to people? But it's because I feel everyone has a story. And unfortunately, most people don't get to be heard. So giving people the opportunity to say what they've got to say and just listen, that's been profound for me. It's allowed me to learn from so many different ones in my life.
You know, when you mentioned your two moms, it makes me think about what a medical assistant said to me. We were in the middle of selling a house and moving into a new house, and we stayed for a short period of time with my husband's mother. And the woman in the medical office said, with your mother, she said, I slit my wrist before I moved.
Oh no.
Okay. So what an awesome contrast in the experience that you just shared. I know you've got stories and stories you could tell about your two moms and their relationship. Who else is on your train?
I would say there are other phenomenal women that I deem as mentors. So I look at what they've lived, what they've been through, and I strive to be like them in the sense that because I function in the role of a listener a lot these days, oftentimes people share certain anxieties or burdens that they carry, and they share them as if it's the biggest thing. But then I remember in their world it is. But the irony is they don't know I've been through that. So, you know, a failed marriage to a drug addict, being on the verge of a cancer diagnosis, you know, losing a parent to medical dire issues, but seeing another one thrive. There's so much that I've been through that I was able to surpass being broken because of the examples that I gained. And here's the irony. One person that's on my train isn't physically here on earth anymore. You know, when you look at the example of Christ and those few years that he had in his ministry and all the things that he went through, there's not a single thing that we face that doesn't in some way mirror what he lived. And so sometimes people take it loosely, WWJD, but when I use that as a guide of what would he do in this circumstance, it helps me live a better life. So, you know, I've had my share of downs, but I always try to do the glass half full, you know, look at the positive. My mom teases and says I'm the queen of silver linings. So, yeah, when it's tough, there's always something to look for, that attitude of gratitude. And when you focus on what's coming tomorrow or next year versus what's happening today, it changes everything. So, yeah, many, many people, as you mentioned, even though they go unnamed, I'm so grateful for the examples they set for me and for the fact that they were there for me. When I look at my childhood, I think about a lot of the teachers that you encounter because, you know, realistically in our country, the education system is under fire as far as its stability and its efficacy. But I had some phenomenal teachers that pushed me, that saw potential when I didn't know it yet. And when you have someone look at you and see you bigger than you are, that feeling is tremendous. So that's something I try to pay forward as well.
Wow. Wow. Well, look, I want you to tell Mr. Yvonne, um, congratulations for being a wonderful person, and for being your, I won't say your backbone, but I'll say being your backbone, for lack of a better expression.
Will do.
What else? Let me be quiet and let you talk.
So, yeah, I'm humbled when I think about some of the experiences I've been through. But I realize that's the whole point of it all. You know, life is this great big journey. And if you try to eliminate the trials and the tests and wish that you only had it good, it's almost unfair, because realistically right now it's what defines us. And so if you take two people and you put them in a crisis, the one that comes out with a smile, it says something, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think something that played into my journey was the fact that, you know, Dad went into the military when I was just 2 years old. And a few years later, he gets assigned to Germany. That's where I actually happened to meet my husband. We were both children. And, you know, he was, I don't know, it's one of those things where people say love at first sight. Well, how could that possibly exist when you're children? But I stand by it. I mean, we had our little puppy love. I definitely got in trouble for it, but it was worth it. And, you know, 25 years later, our moms are pivotal to bringing us back together. And we realize something's still there. So we're so grateful to Jehovah for letting that cement. But when I was in Germany, we encountered Holocaust survivors. And when you meet people who've faced inexplicable trials, but still have a sense of humor, I was just blown away. I wanted to know more. Like, how is it possible to go through that, come out standing, and still have your mind intact, your heart full of love, and just be grateful to be alive? So yeah, there were many that I befriended and I was able to spend time with. And of course, as a child, you don't understand the magnitude of it. But when you look back and you reflect, you get it. You know, you start to get it. And that's what I say. This thing called life is just about understanding what was yesterday and what can you be tomorrow. Another thing that I think was really big and molding my experience was the fact that Dad was in the military. So it was our second assignment in Germany that he actually went to participate in Desert Shield, which obviously turned into Desert Storm.
Yes.
And I remember sitting in the auditorium at school and hearing over the radio with a bunch of others, because I was on a military base. So at that time, I put myself around 10 or 11. And I remember the announcement, the war is now Desert Storm. And thinking everyone else here is kind of like, oh, wow. And they started cheering like this was something amazing. And I'm thinking, my dad's over there. Like, now as a child, to feel that angst and that fear. But Dad would write us letters. And so I saved those letters. And when I look back as an adult, the fear was just coming off the page. But as a kid, you're thinking my dad's a hero. He's over there helping save a country. But, you know, to be exposed to the ravages of war, it's just not, it's not normal. And he paid the price much later. But yeah, it was just one of those things where there's distinct moments that when you think back on them, it's not just a memory or a thought, it's a feeling. And that was one of those really overwhelming ones. So we fast forward and he comes home and he's caked in dirt. And I'm looking at him like, you know, I remember being grateful he's home, but wondering why was he so filthy? And he said that they had a ration of a bottle of water. I think it was maybe 2 liters a day. And he said you had to drink from it, wash with it, cook with it, whatever we function with water as on a day-to-day basis, they got that 1 bottle a day.
Wow.
So, you know, just little things that play into how would you live life differently if you had to live within those confines? And we live in a land of plenty, so it's easy to take things for granted. Mm-hmm. And whether that's the stuff that you have, the money in the bank, the clothes on your back, or even the people in your circle, if you change that from taking them for granted to a level of appreciation, your value just grows manifold. So I encourage everyone to just take moments, if you can, every day to really just reflect. Like they say, stop and smell the roses. Think about the many things that you've got to be grateful for. And that mindset shift somehow elevates you. So you're not complaining, but instead you're celebrating.
Wow. Now I can see your dad coming in the door. I don't know how tall he was. I'm thinking he may have been tall because you have more height than the average woman.
Yeah, over 6 foot. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I've got to remember that. Think about the bottles of water we have around, thinking that if I had to, I'd have to make that adjustment. But you've done it. You've done it. Okay, look. Now, do you speak German?
Yeah, just a little bit. I've forgotten a lot of it, but because I got obsessed in high school with returning to that, I checked out some books from the library and some audio tapes. Yeah, I know I'm dating myself here because audio tapes. But yeah, just to revisit. And then of course today there's plenty of apps, but I love the shock that comes over someone's face when they're speaking German and I jump in and they're like, there's nothing like it. But yeah, languages, I consider them extensions of music, because you have a chance to connect with someone. And when you can take a thought or a feeling and put it into words so that the other person understands. But like they say, 80% of what we say doesn't come out our mouths anyway. Mm-hmm. It's all body language. So our gestures, our expressions, it's like to have conversation and connection. And with technology now, to be able to have this with you, it's such a blessing. But when you mentioned Dad coming through the door, that took me back to another image. This is when I'm 3 years old. So it's one of my earliest memories where he would come home from work in his fatigues and I would run out the door and grab his leg and he'd walk with me on it. And so I told him about that towards the end of his life. And he said, "You remember that?" And I said, "Yeah, you're my daddy." So, hold on to those memories.
Oh, wow. And I can see him dragging you.
Fun times. Couldn't do it anymore.
What a joy. What a joy. So look, you talk about mind coaching. Did you say mind coaching?
Mm-hmm. Mindset. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, what's versus life coaching? What's the difference?
So they're very similar, but my focus is more on what are you thinking? Because I think, my opinion, and some medical experts say it, thoughts are things. So when you start thinking a certain way, you can create certain environments. So obviously there's a difference between someone who grows up in an abusive home and someone who doesn't. But then there's a difference between someone in that abusive home who thinks, I will not be like this. My life will be different. I will be away from this. And the other person who thinks, I'm a victim, I'm trapped, and this is my life, I'm stuck, I deserve this. Those two mindsets can really shape the way that the rest of those lives develop. So I think it's crucial to tap into what someone's thinking and convert that to them understanding it does not matter what you're going through or what you've been through. You are amazing, you deserve to be here, and other people need you. And I feel that changes everything. The challenge is helping someone believe it. Because it's not something you can fake. Yeah, it's not something you can fake. Mm-mm.
What's the most difficult, or I should say most challenging client situation that you've had? Of course, not enough details so that we could pinpoint the person. But...
Yeah, there's a variety. And one thing I'm going to put full disclosure. So I've been an official coach for going on 6-7 years. Mm-hmm. But I feel that even in my childhood, I was coaching people. I was that person who was head of the class and the person who was head of a team and always just getting people to be better. So sometimes it's just your calling. I guess one of the more difficult situations that I encountered as official coach, some of our earliest clients was a married couple that were living abroad in Italy that found us on social media. And they were stationed there, military as well. And their second session, they broke they both broke down in tears because they had a catharsis. And the tough thing a lot of times is when you're helping someone, people tend to keep their problems and their secrets very guarded. So you have to be the kind of person that people are comfortable telling you things. But again, even if it doesn't come out of the mouth, it's going to come out. So we encouraged them to take a couple of minutes, because that was a session that my husband had actually joined on, so that there'd be that male connect for the husband in that case as well. But yeah, it's one of those things where people are stuffing so much in the way of anxiety and stress. And here's the funny thing, much of what we worry about never happens. But if you give life, if you breathe life into those potential problems, you're taking away from the energy you have to thrive. So when someone starts understanding, what if all those things you're afraid of never even happened? What if you could start living your life in the opposite reality? What does that do to you? It just empowers them so tremendously. So I think it's great. That was one that really sticks in my heart, because when you can help a couple reestablish the reason they fell in love in the first place, that's just beautiful.
Yeah. Wow, I like that. Do you have a coach?
Actually, unofficially, I have a couple people that I deem as coaches in my life, because when I need something, when I need that reset, that boost, there are some things that come from within, and there are others that you need a lift for. And the reason why I think it's so instrumental, I'm glad you asked that question. You never ever see a winning sports team make it with a bad coach or coach less. Their win is based on the coaching in that season. And that's why many of these sports teams will go out and pay high dollar for the best coaches they can find, because they understand the success of that team is contingent upon the coaching. So I feel life is the same way. You want to win in the game of life, you need a great coach.
I like that. The other thing is that often, no, I shouldn't say often, but I've seen successful women who have said, I have to watch my back.
Mm.
And you probably have heard that too.
Absolutely.
And it makes me think of the word jealousy. Have you encountered jealousy?
Oh yeah.
Okay, how do you deal with that?
It is such an ugly quality. And I'm going to circle back to a historical account of jealousy and what it meant. The very first murder on record from a biblical standpoint was because of jealousy. You know, many are familiar with, Cain killing Abel because his gift was better. So I figure there's a reason that our Creator had that recorded. I've encountered it as a child. I've encountered it in adulthood. My way of coping with it is take it as a compliment.
Okay.
It's flattery that you want what I have or envy what I own so much that instead of trying to emulate it, you hate it. The reason why I take it as a compliment is it dispels some of the angst, because otherwise you can become anxious.
Mm-hmm.
I'd even venture to say that when you look at the story of Hannah and Peninnah, Peninnah had all the kids, she had all the glory, but she picked on Hannah. And I feel like there had to be something there. There had to be that insecurity and that jealousy, that even though she had the stuff, Hannah had the love of their husband. And so jealousy makes people do ugly things. So what I strive to do is, instead of using it as something that inhibits me, I try to make sure, first of all, that I don't have it. When I see someone that has something glorious, praise it. And sometimes when I do, they're shocked. You compliment a woman because she looks beautiful. Thank you. But giving praise to someone doesn't take anything away from you. It's like a candle lighting another candle. Both of you can shine. But I do move forward with the very, very legit knowledge and experience that jealousy is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you mentioned Cain and Abel, it made me think about the fact that many say that the reason that there's a problem is because Cain's sacrifice was not with blood, with meat, with an animal, and his brother's was. But when you look back, it shows limited thinking on his part, because if that were the case, then Cain could have said, hey man, can we make a deal? Can I trade some vegetables for a lamb or a part of a lamb or something, if in fact that was the case. But when I read a little bit deeper, which reminded me of the need, go back and slow down in your reading.
Yes.
And then look at each word because it's there for a reason, and then meditate on what you're reading. Yes. And what it showed was that it wasn't just the sacrifice, but it was his attitude.
Yes.
That made the difference. And as you were saying earlier, he could have learned those things if he wanted, but the narrow thinking is what often will cripple people. And what I'm hearing you say is that as a life coach, what you're doing, and also in helping people change the way they think, is you're helping them to broaden their thinking and look at other options.
Yes.
Yeah. You definitely have a gift.
Thank you. I mean, it's tremendous to see someone grow that way, especially because most of the people I work with are adults as opposed to children. And I mean, when you see it in a child, it's still fantastic, that light bulb going off of discovery. But when an adult gets it for the first time, that they can do and be anything, it's tremendous. I mean, I can't think of anything better.
How would you define peace of mind, Yvonne?
I would say when you let the blessings outweigh the curse.
Okay.
So given that we've all been through trials and we're going to face more of them realistically, how do you take a negative and have it be outweighed by a positive? So that peace is the lack of warring within. I feel a lot of women, especially, because there's so much on our plates. There's this constant fight. First, society puts pressure on you to be perfect. Well, none of us are perfect. We have to celebrate our flaws. Then there's this element of, if you give, and you're always taking care of everyone else, who's taking care of you? So you have to take those moments, whether it's minutes, an hour, seconds even, to reset and to go to a place where you breathe and you meditate, you pray, and you just align. Because when you don't do those things and you're all over, it's utter chaos. Utter chaos. And the thing is too, you know that cartoon, I don't know if it's on Flintstones, but like Woozy Woo, he always had a rain cloud over his head.
Oh.
And everything was always bad. I encounter a lot of people like that. And the challenge is when you live in that, it's contagious. So instead of looking for a way to lighten someone else's load, you're looking for a way to drag them down. But when you've got peace of mind and you're really okay with who you are on the inside, you're able to help others achieve that peace too. So I would say it's priceless. You know, you really can't put a price tag on that. And so if something threatens your peace, fight with all your might not to let it go.
Okay. So when you obviously meditate on yesterday or the day before, where do your thoughts go?
Well, the irony, of course, is no time machines exist to my knowledge. So there's no way that you can go back and change anything. But the beauty of our minds is we can dwell on, if that happens again, what can I do differently?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of beating myself up, I look for opportunities to make it better. and to make it bigger. And I think it's so essential to really dwell on what have you been through. I feel like a lot of people have kind of closed off the files in their mind, and they refuse to go certain places because of whether it's trauma or fear. But when you face those things, it just makes you stronger for what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's my opinion, and it's worked pretty good for me. But yeah, it's a learning process. Like, what can I do differently next time? And then also reflecting on the good things, how amazing they were. So one thing, I'm a foodie. I love food. So when you have a good meal and you reflect, you ate it fast, but you reflect on how amazing it was, that thought process gives you that chance to savor it. And that's where I think my appreciation factor goes up, looking back. And so whether it's time spent with a loved one, just feeling the sun on your skin, so many little things that become big things when you think about them.
Wow. Are you an only child?
No, I am the oldest of 4 by the same mom and dad.
Okay.
But then we also have, halves and steps. So a lot of blended.
Okay.
In fact, when my grandpa passed in 92 on my father's side, there were over 90 grandchildren and over 60 great-grands.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
yeah, lots of family.
Wow. Okay. All right. It's interesting to study birth order, and I was trying to determine, and say, okay, which kid would she be in birth order? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you're confirming. I said either she's an only or she's the oldest, with all those leadership qualities that come out. And look, you have to tell me about that yellow guitar. What is the deal with the yellow guitar? And you're jumping and playing.
Yeah, so that was actually birthed by the pandemic. Mom and dad definitely raised a love for music. And, when the pandemic started, I went from running around like a chicken with its head cut off and never being home to suddenly being home. And I thought, what can I do at this time? Because like they say, time is money. I don't want to waste it. So I started looking for new hobbies. And I'd always thought about playing the electric guitar. So that was born of that. Can't play a solid song to save my life, but I make a lot of great noise and look good with it.
So are you taking formal lessons, or are you self-taught?
No formal lessons, self-taught, tinkering, listening by ear, but even just rocking out, making noise with it feels fantastic. So yeah, very happy for that.
Funny, too funny.
And I definitely encourage everyone in your listening audience, something that you've had as a dream that you think is impossible for you, or you've wondered, could I do that? Go do it. Go do it. Because what comes from that really mastering a mountain that you thought you'd never climb is you start thinking, what else can I do? So that pretty much has been the pattern of anyone that's done great things. What others said they couldn't do, they try it. And when they realize they can, they start developing new challenges. And so what once was impossible becomes easy. And when you know you've got that power, there's nothing you can't do. Yeah.
Wow. For a period of time, you practiced as a speech pathologist. Are you still doing that?
So technically, I did major in speech pathology. I never actually practiced, but
okay.
It's one of those things that always stays near and dear to my heart. I rolled it into tutoring. So I was able to help a lot of young ones. I base a lot of my coaching elements on how I helped young ones come out of their shell. So there's one little girl, for example. What's funny is she has a younger brother, and he would listen in every time I was working with her. So just by being in the presence of seeing her growth, he grew. He ended up getting straight A's. She improved her grades so significantly in one quarter. The mom was blown away. And more than anything than the grades was she became a chatty Cathy. She went from being shy and scared and timid to running each of our tutoring sessions. So I think when you help people come out of their shell, and then the thing how speech pathology plays in is just give them a voice, give them the opportunity to know how to say what they're thinking and what they're feeling. That alone is empowerment that puts people on a path to live a better life.
I've heard that expression before from licensed family therapists. Give me an example, just a quick example. It doesn't have to be quick, but quick example of giving a person his or her voice.
So I'll go back to the little girl I mentioned. A lot of times, I think she was living under the weight of what she thought others saw her to be.
Okay.
So you're holding up that mirror and seeing what a teacher says you can do, or what your peers say you can do. But when you start realizing, because of positive feedback or a commendation or a challenge that you successfully meet and solve, that you're smarter, more beautiful, stronger than they said, then you start realizing, I don't have any limits. I can do anything. And I think the moment that someone crosses over from doubt to certainty, from fear to courage, they found their voice. They can really just speak up to, this is who I am. And you might not have known it, but this is who I am. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Wow. I can imagine that little girl would leave your sessions, if you were having live sessions, that she'd be walking a little straighter and with a broader smile. That's just what I can imagine, with that sunshine that you would bring into her life and the lives of others, and the ripple effect of that sunshine.
Yeah.
If in this system you live to be 100, and you look back, what do you want to be able to write on your own page?
Wow. I guess I have to say in just a few words that she really lived. You know, I think that many people, they never really live. You know, they stay within these confines of, well, this is what society thinks I should do, or maybe this is what I'm capable of, and this is what everyone around me is doing. But when you break those barriers and you write your own rules, and you, again, impress not just the crowd, but yourself, I feel like that's when you've really lived. So the more experiences I can have, the more people I can meet, the more lives I can touch. And, you know, there's people who have a ton of money and they can do good with that money. But the thing about money is eventually it fades. But the way that you make someone feel when you stir a heart, they're going to remember that decades later. That's something that instead of fading, it grows stronger. So I think the more lives that I can connect with and touch, hear their story and share mine, that's something I would really, really love to be remembered for.
Oh, do you have a puppy?
Yes, little bad butt.
Do you really?
His name is S'mores. I actually came into a certain section of the house to try to soundproof because we're expecting maintenance to come through. And I was like, he's going to lose it. So I'm glad they didn't show up yet. But he's so adorable. But he's crazy. Like, he's one, we're driving down the road and people will look at him and they'll try to, and he loses it. Like, don't you look at me. But he's like my son. Yeah, he's a Shih Tzu Chihuahua.
Really? Mm-hmm. And was he a rescue dog?
Kind of, sort of. What happened is my mom had a coworker whose dog had a litter. And so they needed to find good homes for them quickly. And we were technically supposed to get his little sister. She was all white, so we were going to name her Marshmallow. And before we could pick her up, someone else went through because she was sickly. She needed a home really fast. And we were a little sad. And then the owner said, well, no one came and picked up her brother. And when they sent the photo, he was even cuter because he's brown and white. So when I said, okay, we're going to name him S'mores, like a little treat.
Yeah.
They said, that's what we've been calling him.
Really?
So it was just amazing. And he was the key to opening the door for my husband. At the time, he was working as a concierge at one of those high rises out in Palm Beach.
Uh-huh.
And there was a lot of distance with some of the residents, but some nights I would come up and bring s'mores in a little plastic container because he was so tiny he could fit in like one hand back then. Because he looked like a designer dog, everyone fell in love with Lou.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they would spoil the dog, be kind to Lou. So I just think it's amazing how we have this interconnection with animals, with each other, and how we perceive each other. So yeah, he was the key to opening the door for my hubby on his job. Yeah.
Too cute. Do you like the beach? Is that where you're in
Love
Palm
it.
Beach? Do you?
Love it. Yeah. We happened to be there because when we came down from New York after Dad's illness and passing, my mom, it was in Palm Beach at the time. So to be close to her, we were there. And the thing about the beach, full disclosure, I do not know how to swim.
Okay. Put that on the list right now. Stop right now and write it down. Put that on the list, and I'll tell you a swim story. Okay.
Oh, I told my hubby because we have a cruise planned for later in the fall if this crazy pandemic dies down. And I said, I'm practicing my swim moves through the air because I want to be able to scuba dive and be up close with coral and life and everything under there. He's like, okay. But yeah, I don't know how to swim, but there's something about standing on the shore and watching those waves come in. And, you know, even if it's nightfall and you see the moon and the power of her calling those waves, and then the peace that comes because, you know, we're born from water in the womb. And like water is living, like it's constantly moving, and the force of it. Like I'd love to know how to, you know, ride the waves and all these things. But yeah, I know my first step is learning how to swim. Right?
I took swimming lessons when I was 40.
Oh.
And I had some near drowning experiences.
Oh,
as
no.
a child, you know. And I thought, you know what? I like looking at the water, but I'll stay here, waist high was it, right? So I'm going to the water aerobics class to try to avoid a surgery. That didn't work. And I'd look over at these women at the deep end. I'm thinking, man, I want to go over there. So one day after our water aerobics class, one of the instructors said, I'll teach you.
Wow.
And I just looked at her and I'm sizing her up. I'm thinking, can you save me if I start drowning? I don't think you can, right? She's little and I'm, you know, big, and it's like, and then she says, just stay after class. So I'm looking at the clock and I'm looking at her. I said, what time do you get off? She said, it doesn't matter. She was giving the wrong answers, okay? And so then she takes me to the deep end. I'm holding on to the side. I get to the deep end. And we start with my swimming on my back. And I said, I don't want to hold you up. I know you have to. She said, it doesn't matter. She would not take no for an answer.
Wow. And
I thought, okay, Deborah, you do not want to drown and be embarrassed in front of all these women. So just keep moving. So it got to the point, just if it's an encouragement to you, it got to the point that I could do 14 laps.
Wow.
But only on my back, because I couldn't get it through my head that I'd be able to remember to turn and breathe, one of those things. And the crazy thing was that I'd start at the deep end, 12 feet, and I'd swim on my back to the narrow end, to the shallow end, stand up and walk back down. I said, you know, Deborah, that's dumb. You know, she's already told you she's going to help you. And it makes me think about something that we've learned as far as helping each other to speak publicly, even about the Bible. You have a coach. You generally have somebody who's there with you to help you.
Right.
And I thought the attitude that she had about being available, no, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to help you. You know? So I encourage you to keep working at it, because now sometimes I'll feel like, I need to be in the water and I need to feel that weightlessness. And yeah, you'll be good at it. You'll have to send me a picture. Tell Luke to send me a picture when you do that.
Will do, and I'm so glad you shared that too. It does encourage me to not give up on the dream. But I think what you experienced in that was amazing. That's exactly what living is about. Because imagine if she extended that offer and you said no.
Yeah.
Because you let fear stop you.
Oh, yeah.
But you didn't. You took it on. You took it on. And now you have lived to tell the tale that you countered another, what would have been an obstacle, and you made it an adventure. That sounds amazing.
So you'll have to let me know. You're right there, Palm Beach. You'll have to let me know.
Will do.
So look, what do you plan to do for the rest of this year if the pandemic continues?
Continue working on those things that, although we may be apart physically, we still have connections. So making sure that, because I've met amazing people during the pandemic in an effort to connect, whether that's locally here in my community or across the nation or even other countries that I might not have met pre-pandemic, because you tend to get stuck in a silo and you have a routine and you do the same things day in, day out. So it gave new breath to some of my goals. A lot of things I'm working on. And I feel that when you're trying to grow, it's not just one directional or one layer. So obviously there's mental things that I'm trying to champion, but then there's emotional elements. How do I feel better every day? And of course there's physical, I'm working out more, making healthier eating choices, and, even sleep, making sure that I get more of that, because when you're busy, you think, I don't have time for that, but you don't realize, I'm telling you now, get your sleep. And the quality of it, as well as, spiritual, new goals, and just achieving all these things. It's like a symbiosis. When you have it good over here, it gets good over there, and then you just boom, boom, boom. So yeah, a lot of things I have on my list. And as I check them off, it becomes, well, how do I make it a bigger goal? Because I feel if you just keep pushing and keep striving, then that's when you become a giant. So how about you? What are you working on?
You know what? I'm doing more life coaching or brain health coaching, and I'm privileged to work with several physicians. How would I have ever met them, right? This is crazy, after 30 years, one of the physicians with whom I'm now working is a medical director, and 30 years ago, he was my surgeon. So when I'm talking to this client and I'm saying, well, okay, who's your medical director? We need to involve him in what we're doing, a project, right? And they mentioned his name. I said, spell it. And I said, he was my surgeon 30 years ago, and they're asking me. She said, you know his middle name? Yeah. So continuing to grow in the life coaching piece, the brain health coaching, because everything starts with the brain. You mentioned a baby and how we all come from water. And I'm thinking when it comes to our thinking, when a baby is conceived, the first thing that develops is the brain. And whatever it is that we desire to do in life, there's something that we need so as to do it. There's one thing that we all need to accomplish those goals. We need life. And so if we can affect in a positive way our thinking, the brain, when you mentioned sleep, the fact that between midnight and 3, it's the only time that the brain detoxifies. I was like, okay, let me start working on that.
Yeah.
So there's so many goals. If we can continue to develop those goals, stop for a moment and think about them. So just doing more of that, and I want to improve my health. And I said to our daughter last night, I said, you know what? I've decided that I don't want to be overweight at this age. And she's like, okay. So putting myself on my own plate is something I have to continue to work on.
All of it.
Yeah. If you were going to have dinner, do you like to cook, Yvonne?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite dish to cook, or do you have several?
Yeah. and a confession. So I grew up loving to bake. I didn't embrace cooking until maybe a good 10, 15 years ago. So yeah, baking was my thing. I was known for baking. But then I started thinking there's so many different cuisines. What can I try to do there? So I love watching like the Food Network and learning from the greats and trying. So yeah.
Really? So if you were to have a group for dinner, it's one, I know you can have the whole house taken up with card tables with tablecloths all over the place, but just one dinner table, who would you invite to dinner?
Wow. Oh wow. And this could be anyone living or dead?
Yeah.
Oh my. That's a really good question. I think it depends because I got a little bit of a flair for hosting when we were up in New York. And I would always invite different ones that hadn't had the opportunity previously to spend much time together.
Ooh,
So it was a bit of
okay.
a social experiment to get them to understand and appreciate the greatness of each other.
Oh, wow.
Um, so if I could get anyone though, I'd definitely have Christ.
Okay.
And then I'd have to have some artistic greats, like maybe Dali or Picasso. And then I'd have brain greats, like, Einstein or Newton. I just would have all these people, and part of it's selfish because I not only get to give them something amazing and yummy, but I get to learn from them. And man, that is a great question. It would probably evolve depending on what I'm working on at the time.
And then would you allow everybody to select where they want to sit? Or would you say, I'm going to sit or seat Einstein next to Dolly? Or how would you do that?
Good question too. I always do open seating because I feel like towards the course of the evening, then you end up doing musical chairs. So what I do is I have people mingle with each other so you can have that exchange and that interchange across the board. I found when people have assigned seating and they're stuck by the same person, they only get that one experience. But I like layers and diversity of experience. So yeah, I definitely have them sit where you want and okay, everybody move.
I
So,
like that. I
yeah.
like that. Okay, so that means all the time that I've spent deciding who's going to sit next to whom, I should just get rid of that idea and sit where you want. I'm going to do an Yvonne. And now and look, and now you have to tell me about the Yvonne versus the Yvonne. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah. I can't remember who mom said helped her pick the name because I have a unique middle name too. But it's one of those names where it's always mispronounced. So I say, I answer to anything. What's in a name? But yeah, I once lived with another. She spelled hers with a Y as well, but pronounced it Yvonne. And
Okay.
so it was so funny when people call the house, we tease them about, so who did you want to talk to? But yeah, it's one of those names where it's a little tougher. So family calls me Vaughn and keeps it easy. But yeah, I think names, especially because you're given them at birth and no one knows what the heck your life holds yet. It's about defining that name, giving it meaning, making it mean something amazing in the short time that we have. And I have to give a quick shout out to my parents again, because
Please.
when you were talking about the whole element of mindset and the baby and in the womb, my mom had this thing where I don't think she knew, but she really set me up for success because she would spend time reading to me early on. And so she said when, I was about 4, I started reading the books back. But she thought I had memorized them because she'd read them so much. So she would slip me a new book and I was reading it. And so she's like, sometimes we don't understand the power and the influence that we can have on someone else just by doing something and creating a routine or giving them that protective shelter to know that they can grow. My dad as well, he was very, very big on, you're going to learn these times tables while all the other kids are outside playing. You're going to learn this, you're going to do this. But those backbones, those foundations, they put in me this thirst for learning. And so I've never stopped wanting to grow and learn. And I think as long as you stay hungry and you maintain an appetite for new knowledge, new experiences, then you can really live the best life ever.
Wow. Oh, I love it. I can see why people on the train in New York would be drawn to you. Or maybe even the woman or the old man on aisle 3 in the grocery store would be drawn to you.
Has happened.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Oh man. What else is it that you want to share?
Just how honored and grateful I am that you had the idea to invite me here today, because, you never know who's going to hear and realize that they need to challenge themselves to think outside the box and go do something different. And, don't waste a day, One thing that happened to me recently was we're all seeing in the news about the collapse of the building over at Surfside.
Yeah.
And, the morning it happened, I found out from phone calls from concerned relatives who saw it before I did. And are you okay? That's not your building. And so there was this assumption that, it had to be me because we're here in Miami. And I said, no. We're about 20 minutes away. Occasionally we would pass the building if we were doing a beach drive, And so I saw the horrific footage and I saw the news. But maybe about a week ago, hubby and I were taking a late beach drive. It was like 11:30 at night on the weekend. And we encountered a ton of traffic. And I'm thinking, who's in town? Is there a concert? What's going on? I didn't realize until I saw it that we were at the detour traffic of the site. And so suddenly I'm confronted with the building, because this was, they had already done the demo, all the demolition because of prepping for the storm coming in. Lights are everywhere because they're still doing recovery efforts. Suddenly the memorial with the stuffed animals and the letters and the flowers, people praying. And it dawned on me, no one thought that would happen. No one saw that coming. How differently do you live your life if you knew this was your last day? So I try to embrace that going through. You wake up, you're grateful you have it, but maximize each day. And obviously don't forget the ones who are gone, but show that gratitude by using every day you've got to tell the ones that you love them, and to look for those new experiences. Don't be stagnant, really live.
After we did the interview, your interview of me, I was so emotionally full. I thought, I've got to reach out to her moms. And it made me think about the experience with David and Goliath. You remember we talked about, I sent an email about that afterwards, and how when David conquered Goliath, and you've had some Goliaths in your life, some I didn't even know about. I'm sure there are others that I don't know about. And how, was it Saul who said, after whose boy is that? And so when I think of your two moms, hello two moms, when I think of your two moms, I think about that. Both of you can claim this baby or this boy, as David was. So much goes out to him. If every young person had a mom, birth mom or otherwise, who would embrace them the way you've been embraced and nurtured by these two women who obviously are giants in a good way, the world would certainly be a better place. So thank you two moms for setting such an example. And this is your time to share so that you can help other moms to do the same thing. We live at a time that often our worth as women was diminished. And we tried for many years, even in corporate America, to be like men. We wore the suits and the silk ties. Even though they were bow ties, the idea was to replicate the way men would dress, because we thought that would cause us to be respected. We didn't understand our value. And it's beautiful to see how what your two moms have done has helped you to see your value as a woman. You don't have to be a man to be valuable. That's not your best skill set. Your skill set, your gift, is in being a woman.
Great.
And being the best woman she can be. I
Yeah.
love that. I
You know,
love
and
that.
I thank you for making that point too, because I think about when Adam was there alone, looking at the animals, and suddenly realizes something's missing. The thing that God designed to complete him was a woman.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you know, to really celebrate the power and the identity and what we bring to the table, you know, I think is so vital. Um, and always living under the knowledge that someone else's impression of you does not define you. The only way that you limit what you're doing is if you limit yourself. So forget about what others say and think, and realize your worth and that you are tremendous, and live in such a way that you're already a queen, and you will make so many strides and touch so many lives, but you have to believe it first.
Yeah. And then when you are modeling that, because as you know, folks check you out before they decide that they want to engage with you on a
Yes.
business level, or
Yes.
if they want to trust you with the life coaching that they recognize that they need, they've already checked you out. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that you're able to model that belief just adds to what you bring to the table as a person. Oh wow, I've enjoyed this.
Like that.
Yeah, very much so. So, um, tell Mr. Luke that I said hello, and your two moms, and to our listening audience. I'm hoping that folks will reach out and give feedback to you as to the insight that they may have gotten from our interaction. I feel as if we should have a cup of tea now, you know, and talk about the world's problems and what we could do to make things better and continue to make things better.
Over and we can get together. Let's make it a point. I would be on.
I'm
I would-
looking forward. I'm looking forward to that.
I'll bake the cake.
Okay, look, and I'll try to eat just one slice.
And for anyone that wants to get in touch with me or has feedback or has questions, they can find all my contact info right on the website, newyouwow.com. And yeah, whether it's a phone call, setting up an appointment on my calendar, or just sending me an email, whatever means they're most comfortable with, I welcome reaching out, because if I can do anything to help them be bigger and better, stronger, I would count it an honor.
Oh, that's beautiful. And there is such a need now. Oh, one more thing I want to tell you. You talk about the work that you're doing to help women and couples, families. And
Yes.
I'm reading right now a book that a psychiatrist with whom I'm working recommended, and it's emotional intelligence. I don't know if you've read any of those.
I haven't read it yet, but I've heard of it.
It's worth it. And one of the things that this doctor says, his last name is Goleman, Goleman, is that when a child has a mom, the child can have a mom and a dad, but when the child has a mom who gives them that nurturing, then you see that emotional intelligence grow more quickly. And what you're doing is bringing that emotional intelligence to people. I'm sure that a lot of folks with whom you work are smart people, but they're smart enough to realize that they need that emotional growth that you can bring to them. So don't stop doing what you're doing. There's such a need for it.
Thank you. Thank
Absolutely. And keep playing that yellow guitar, okay? on the beach. And enjoy it. And keeping that infectious laugh that you have. It makes me laugh. For sure.
You just, extending the invite, allowing me into your space and onto your show, and allowing me to share my story with those that have a minute to listen. But I wish nothing but the best for you coming your way with everything you're working on too.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you for that. So tell folks one more time how they can get in touch with you.
Just go to the website, newyouwow.com. And then really all of my social media identifiers are the same. So if you prefer to find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, New You Wow, you'll find me there.
New You Wow. Okay. All right. Okay, my lady. Very best to you.
Likewise,
Okay,
stay
my love.
safe, stay
Okay.
healthy, much love.
All right,
Thank you.
take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to share this video and like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at NewYouWell. Until next time, stand tall in your power and remember, your belief in yourself is your superpower.